Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs. We are in full postseason mode now. We are getting into the nitty gritty of the college wrestling season and a big weekend coming up here. We've got the D1 conference tournaments going on. We've got some national tournaments at other levels coming up as well. So, exciting time of year. The weather's warming up a little bit, but the action's heating up all over, isn't it?
Oh, it's heating up a lot. Hey, it's 51 degrees out. It's warming up quite a bit. But that's kind of the tournament season. That's when, that's what everyone's worked for their entire lives in some cases, their entire career, and certainly for the season. But yeah, now it's payday. So
yeah, and this week is a lot. I think there's a lot more anxiety, not necessarily anxiety, but it's a lot more tense for everybody because it's the qualifier, right? If you don't get past this, there is no NCAAs. A little bit of the, maybe the edge is lifted once you kind of earn your spot at the NCAAs. So you can maybe just rely, hey, we're there now, just go wrestle. But here you have to qualify. If you don't get the job done this weekend, you possibly could not go to Tulsa. So there's maybe a little bit more on the line now than there will be, in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
you're right. And once you have gotten that you've qualified, it's like the weight of that is off your shoulders, and now you can, all right, let's get it done. It depends on where you're at. If you're one of the elite wrestlers, now you're looking for that title, and if you're maybe an echelon below that, now you're looking to be an All-American or to win a couple of matches or something, or just to keep going round by round. But and we should kind of mention that it's kind of a wave. So like the NAIA has already had their qualifier. Division 2 and 3 have had their qualifiers, so they did that last weekend, and then the NAIA's championship is now this weekend, and the qualifier for D1 is this weekend, and then next weekend is the 2 and 3 championships followed by the Division 1 championship. So we're kind of getting waves of it right now, and those different level athletes are at those, like you mentioned, at that qualifiers. So we got the D1 qualifiers this weekend.
Yep. And let's not forget also we have the National Coaches Women's Wrestling Association in Cedar Rapids starting Friday, and that's Friday and Saturday at the Alliant Energy Powerhouse. I'll be down there, covering some things from that tournament. So the thing about that really kind of stands out is next year, the University of Iowa will be in full swing. So that's a championship that they'll be a part of in the future. You also have other programs across the state that are starting up. Simpson has a representative there, and schools like Loras and Cornell, they'll have programs that will have the chance to qualify for that as well in the future. So kind of looking forward to it. And it's interesting, we'll talk about it here in a little bit. Kind of the 4 years of this tournament, the way it's really grown. And it's done that exponentially, really. But the Big Ten's in Ann Arbor, first time since I think 2010. That Michigan will host the Big Ten championships. Obviously, Penn State, a huge favorite, I would say. University of Iowa. You got teams like Nebraska, Ohio State, Michigan. You would think would be able to contend for kind of a top spot, but is this is this kind of a slam dunk, kind of going through the motions for Penn State?
Personally, I think it is. Yes, I think it's Penn State's tournament, and then I think Iowa's second. And then I think it drops down a little bit. I could be wrong there. There might be a closer gap between Iowa, the number 2 team, Iowa, and maybe 3 and 4 and 5 right there. But every team's bringing quality wrestlers to the tournament, and which is why the Big Ten has afforded so many automatic qualifiers. And I think the minimum at the weight is 7, wasn't it? And some of them have 10 qualifiers, and so there's
9.
In one respect, it's, if you look at it one way, once they put in the at large, some weights might have 11 or 12 guys that qualify. Right. 14. So in one respect, it's kind of an easy tournament, qualifying tournament. On the other hand, it's the Big Ten.
Right.
So right. We'll see. I think it's Penn State's to walk away with, but Iowa's not believing that at all. So it's gonna be fun to watch the Iowa team.
Sure.
Hopefully that Iowa's always had. I don't want to say this, but they've always had injuries and things that have kind of plagued them the last few years. So hopefully that's not an issue. I don't think it is right now. So knocking on wood here.
They've dealt with a lot through the season. Ava Sadma's time with injury. They've kind of had this makeshift lineup, but the comments all the way through that, right, was we want to be our healthiest at the end of the season. So that's why you didn't see certain people in the lineup for periods of time, because they wanted to get to this point to where they were their healthiest, or as healthy as they can be. And we'll see if that really kind of takes hold. For Iowa, the pre-seeds were actually released shortly out. We were talking about the beginning of this week, last week during our podcast, and the pre-seeds actually came out shortly after we were done recording last week. But Spencer Lee, Real Woods, no surprise there. They lead the way as number 1 seeds. And then you have a couple number 3 seeds in Patrick Kennedy at 165 and Tony Cassiope at heavyweight. Then you've got Max Murin, number 4 seed at 149. Jacob Warner and Kobe Siebrecht, they're the 5 seeds at 97 and 57. I believe Ava Sad's the number 5 seed, also at 184. Then you got Nelson Brands at 174, who's the number 7 seed, with Brody Teskey at number 8 at 133. If you look at the allocations per weight class, Iowa in position to send 10 wrestlers to Tulsa, Penn State 9, but of course, the firepower that Penn State has, with the possibility of 5 champs. Right. That really makes a difference. Maybe even 6, really, when you look at kind of who the top 2 seeds are. They've got I think 7 in the top 2, which is pretty amazing.
Right. And with 5, like you said, you're coming back where they have 4 national champs, and it's just crazy. I mean, they're in good health to it, I think, for the most part. And then so that reminds me and makes me wonder. Remember, the last couple of years we've watched a lot of medical forfeits once teams have gotten their wrestlers to the qualifying stage. So does that take away the desire for, let's just say, Iowans to travel to Michigan to watch a tournament and then not see quality? And hey, I'm not talking about just Iowa wrestlers. I'm talking about the good matchups throughout the course of the tournament. We saw how many finals matches that didn't get wrestled last year. So sure. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but
Well, and that's one of the things where we'll get into it, but you had kind of a neat little activity about people wrestling above or below their seeds, and I'm looking. I did it the below the seeds for the entire field, not just Iowa. And I'm looking at a couple names, and I'm sitting there going, "Boy, I think he's missed some time." Like a Kendall Coleman. I want to say he might have missed some time, and what happens with him? If he gets, there's 10 wrestlers at 157, and say he gets to semis and loses, uh, you know, does he medically forfeit to sixth? Because he's in the top 10, because for him, it really probably really doesn't matter if he's third, fourth, fifth, or just ends up sixth. Um, even Abe Bassad, they take 9. He's had some elbow issues and he's banged up. What if he decides, what if he gets to the quarters, gets into the top 6, and then decides, I don't want to, we don't want to risk anything. Don't want, you know, uh, further any further injuries, you know, uh, that happens. We've seen it happen, and yeah, you think it might affect things, and you know, part of me thinks, oh, people want to see those matches, especially some consi matches, which can be exciting. Um, and then again, it's like there are bigger fish to fry for those individuals. It makes sense once they have their spot to do what's safe and is better for them in a week and a half.
Right. I mean, I understand that. I understand the, protect your wrestler, give him the best opportunity to get healthy for the Nationals. We saw that last weekend at the Division III,
Mm-hmm.
where Wartburg medical forfeited in the finals. They're arguably their best wrestler, national runner-up last year. So he was a runner-up in the regional finals, and easily could have won that. But then what's the difference? He's probably going to be the number 1 seed anyway, and he's
Right.
sporting a knee injury, and so I'm sure needed a little bit more time to rest and not give him that chance to make it a worse injury. So so that makes sense. But you're right, and especially those you talked about those consolation matches when it's the qualifying. It's that line that we've drawn. Here's the automatic qualifiers. Now it's a little fuzzy line because some could go, but that now you're at the risk of the committee picking you or whatever to be that
Right.
large. But so that automatic qualifier, when you get to that line, that's the fun one to watch, to see. That's the person that's going to be excited to run off the mat after they qualify. So that's what.
Right. Well, you wanted to do a little activity with some of the wrestlers based on the pre-seeds. The preliminary seeds, they really don't change a whole heck of a lot, even though they will kind of go in and relook at them. Somebody might change from a 10 to a 9 or something like that, but you don't really see anything too dramatic. Um, but who are your top 3 Iowa wrestlers to finish above their seeds, do you think? Or most likely to wrestle above their seed?
So I think, obviously you throw 2 of them out because they're number 1 seeds. So now you're choices. And, so, and some of them, if you're, a number 2 seed or whatever, you can certainly improve it. So that's part of the option there as well. But I think the best chance to wrestle above the seeds in this order, I picked 3, are Teskey, Warner, and Brands. Those are
Really?
that order. Yeah.
I actually, our first 2 are the same. I have Teskey, Warner, 1, 2. The third one I went with was Kobe Sebrecht. And the reason why I kind of went with Sebrecht is because, you know, he's shown flashes, and I know, you know, I know Coleman is sitting in front of him, and Saldate from Michigan State, but I could just see him finishing third or fourth. Not much above his seed, but I don't think anybody is cutting into the top two. But I think, you know, it's kind of a jumble. I could also see him finishing, you know, eighth or ninth too. So 157 is one of those things after you get past Rob and Haynes of Penn State. You know, we've seen Sebrecht beat Lujan and lose the car, who both are behind him. So, you know, Chumbley was a top 10 wrestler for Northwestern when Sebrecht beat him. You know, Garrett Model from Wisconsin's not bad. So that's a really deep weight class, but I just think he has I think he has a chance to move into that top three, because I think it's kind of wide open when you get from, you know, 3 to 10 and 3 to 9 in that weight class.
I agree. And then with a healthy Kendall Coleman, he may be able to break that top two or three, one or two, but that's a big question mark. But
Yeah.
Sebrecht, so, you know, he loves Sebrecht to me is one, not afraid to stand up and throw you. If you give him the pressure in the arm, he'll have some fun with you. And
right.
then two, he's such a great scrambler. He really, it's hard to take him down. Just when you think you make a nice shot on him, he's scrambled around and got the takedown on you, which is true of a lot of college kids. But you know, he's very good at that. So he could, you know, take the match into sudden victory or whatever and get a scramble takedown and upset that match. So that's a good choice.
The biggest thing with Kobe Sebrecht is, how is he going to be mentally? Not seeing that there's any issues with him mentally, so I don't want it to be misconstrued for anything. But, you know, you get to this time of year, and this is his first Big Ten tournament, right? This is his first postseason. Does he wrestle? Is he going to wrestle the same way in Ann Arbor that he's wrestled in Carver Hawkeye Arena or during a regular duel, right? If he wrestles the same way, if he's loose, and like you said, you know, allows himself to scramble and, you know, just open things up and wrestle loose and relaxed.
Yep.
You know, he can throw a monkey wrench in a lot of other wrestlers' plans, you know.
Right. He's pretty
But if he tightens up, he's the type of, I think he has a style that the more tense and tight he is, the more he's out of what he does best. So if he's loose and relaxed, the sky's the limit. But, you know, if the situation impacts him, you know, that could make things a little more unclear for him.
Right.
So,
he's pretty undaunted from what I've seen, for the most part. But if he can keep a match close, he's always in it. But if someone gets out there and gets on their horse and gets some takedowns and maybe even a turn, he's one that could, you know, like all of us, it could be over. So, yeah, so that's a good choice, I think.
you know, and I like Nelson Brands too. I was kind of on the edge with Sebrecht and Brands, just because the way Brands wrestles, he's going to be in every match, just because he's stingy and he's able to keep things low scoring and keep things close. That if he can kind of rediscover, you know, that quick high crotch and get a takedown when he needs it, you know, he can make a run, especially kind of being on that lower end of the bracket and get to the quarterfinals and possibly face Labriola. You know, I just think he's somebody that can finish higher than seventh if, you know, he's going to be in matches, and if he can find a way to to score a takedown or two and just kind of get back to that high crotch attack. I like his chances too, but you know,
He has throughout high school, he's had a history of being a tournament guy. I mean,
yeah,
he had a good season going, and then got to the state tournament and won the state tournament. In that junior year, was it? And wasn't necessarily the favorite, or was it his
I think his sophomore year.
sophomore year, wasn't it? And because it was Xavier, I thought it was going to be Lembeck that was going to have a good run at it there. So so there's a guy that's he's not afraid to step up come tournament time. I'm hoping. That said, I'm gonna step ahead on us because we had talked about maybe those that might wrestle below their seeds, and I'm gonna do it for different reasons. But that being said, so I had the best chance to wrestle below seed, and it's not we're picking on guys. It's just that hey, that could happen. And so with me, I had Assad, and I threw in Murin not because of Max Murin, but because of 149.
Yeah,
that one
149 is loaded.
Oh my gosh, he could wrestle above, below. Who knows? We'll see. But then I had Assad, Murin, and then I threw in Brands because he can go either way on this because of what you just said. Keeps it close. Doesn't if he doesn't pull the trigger on that high crotch in his offense, he could fall below his seed. So, and he's right at that cut line, that automatic cut line. He's the one that's closest to the cut line. He's a 7, and that's the cutoff. So if he's one below his seed, he's not an automatic qualifier too.
I think you could put Seabrecht in there for a similar reason with Murin, because when you get from 3 to 9, really, that I think that's a jumble at 157. So you can finish anywhere from 3 to 9 in there, and you wrestle a week later and it would be different.
Right. And you and I have it in front of us. So let's just share. I mean, here's the seeds at 149. Number 1, Sammy Sosa, Austin Gomez, Yaya Thomas, Murin, Shane Van Ness is 5th, Michael Blockus 6th, Graham Rooks 7th, and Ethan Miller 8th. And so I mean that's a loaded weight class, and geez, it's gonna be fun to watch it. So
for sure. And speaking of talked about top seeds and stuff, and who might have the toughest road to hold that seed. Sammy Sasso, one of those. We can share those in just a second. My top 3, just because I didn't want to ruffle too many feathers, I kind of went the entire whole field. I'm kind of looking at Jesse Mendez, number 2 from Ohio State at 133. When you look at kind of who they have on the bottom side of that bracket, where the number 10 seed is Taylor Lamont from Wisconsin, and then you got Heilman from Rutgers at the 7 that he'll have to face one of those two, and then you've got Lucas Bird from Illinois, who he'll probably face in the finals. The one person that I guess in that bracket outside of Roman Bravo Young that I think you talked about being tournament guys, right? With Brands, he's had a history of doing that in high school, and really rising. Lucas Bird, when it comes to March, is a tough out for everybody. So that's one that I picked. Liam Cronin, the number 2 seed at 125 from Nebraska. You've got Matt Ramos as the number 3 seed. Then you've got Michael DiAgostino from Northwestern as the 6 seed. And then you've also got Malik Heinzelman from Ohio State as the number 7 that are all on that bottom side of the bracket. And the 10 seed is Jack Medley from Michigan. I mean, after Spencer Lee, that 125-pound bracket is just as deep as any as well. So I think that's going to be tough. And then at 174, just kind of picked Bailey O'Reilly as well. But when it comes to the Hawkeyes, you make some pretty good cases there.
Well, and the reason mentioned Assad was injury. I don't know where that's at, so that's why I had it. And
That's a big question, especially being the fifth seed, as we mentioned. Um, that could be if his elbow, which I'm assuming that's the injury because that was taped up, when he wrestled against Oklahoma State, right? If you get to the semifinals, and lose, or you get to the top six, I mean, it would make sense to default down to sixth. You got your automatic berth. So that right there would automatically put him below his seed if they did that, as a precaution.
right. And there's proponents out there that are saying that they should lose a seed, or it should cost them some points in the seeding criteria or whatever. I don't even know what the formula is, but if it gets to portions where a whole bunch are doing it, it has been the last couple of years at different, and not just in the Big Ten, but in a lot of different conferences. And that might be worth discussion, but that's another day. So you mentioned Sasso as the number one seed, and I'm just saying it this way: most likely to not win, I guess, the number one seed. So Sasso, just because of the strength of the weight class, I mean, and that could go a lot of different directions. So if I had to go another way, I might, for the same reason, pick heavyweight. I mean, I feel pretty strong about Paris, but then the next two are equally as, I think they could win it too. So,
sure.
So that'd probably be my second pick, maybe 65, somewhere in there with Hamity and Amin and Kennedy. So,
well, Hamidy's the one that I that was like the second, depending on who you might say. Hamity was my number two in that that classification, just because you look at who, like, the top seed will face in the semis, more than likely the 4 or 5 seed, and that's Alex Facundo of Penn State and Carson Karchla of Ohio State. And that's those are two tough wrestlers to face. So even before getting to a final against possibly, Amin or Kennedy or anybody else from that bottom side, if they pull upsets, you got to get through Facundo or Karchla more than likely, just to get there. I think that's pretty tough. So I think that's one where, like 49, is a little bit deeper.
right. And if you go even deeper, the 8 or 9 seed would wrestle the number one seed in the quarters, and the number 8 seed is Danny Branigal from Illinois.
Right.
So that's not an easy road.
But, not at all. Not at all. So, just one other thing too. What do you think is the most attractive finals match? What weight class do you think is the most attractive finals match possibility?
Ask me that for sure in the Big 12, because that's I'm going to go really heavyweight, man. I don't know. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think that no, I'm looking forward to 49.
Okay.
49. And then
I think those two stand out above the rest. I think maybe a couple years ago, if we had Starace and Labriola, maybe that. But I think right now, there's just a bigger divide between Starace and the rest of the field there at 74, especially when he's on. But yeah, 149, I think, regardless of who, the semifinals there might just be as fun as many of the championship matches, to be honest with you. You've got some really good ones there. And the same with heavyweight, like you mentioned. Don't forget about Lucas Davison either. he's the top guy. Being on the same side as Paris, I don't necessarily think that's a matchup that's good for Davison, and of course that's a matchup that's not good for 99% of the people that step on the mat with him anyway. But you've got four of the top heavyweights, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country, right there fighting it out. So
Right.
that'll be fun.
And two other things. You mentioned semifinals. Potential semifinal at 97 is Dean and Warner, the national finals match.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah, right.
Right. So, and then 185, we failed to mention the sixth seed is Boone McDermott from Dubuque Waller. Russell.
Yep.
Boone, nice kid. So I wish him the best for Boone. Hopefully he can qualify and become an All-American.
Yeah.
Rutgers.
McDermott from Waller, and then was he at Iowa Central for a year or two?
Two.
Okay, and then out to Rutgers where he's done some good things. And like you said, number 6 seed at a weight class where they're taking 9. And you talked about those big 4, and then Trent Hilliger from Wisconsin is the 5, who's a quality heavyweight, been like a top 10 guy. Then you have McDermott, and then Tate Orndorff, who's an accomplished heavyweight. So McDermott's done some really good things there, and has himself in position to get one of those automatic bids to Tulsa.
Right. So
as we mentioned, they're at Ann Arbor. Actually, Ann Arbor was the very first Big Ten championship I was able to cover back in 2010. That's why I knew what year it was. So that was my first Big Tens, and now they're back. The Chrysler Center up there. They will start 9 a.m. on Saturday with the first session. The second session begins at 4:30 with semifinals at 6:30, and then on Sunday the third session noon for the start time with consolation matches, and then the championship and final round, because they'll wrestle first, third, and fifth all at the same time, and that begins at 3:30 on Sunday, March 5th. So you can watch that, the BTN or Big Ten Plus. Big Ten Plus will have the individual mat cameras to follow, and then session 2. The semifinals will be on BTN and Big Ten Plus as well. So Sunday, Big Ten Plus will have the earlier rounds, and then the finals you'll have on BTN as well. So, and I'll also throw in a plug for our friends and colleagues, Mark Ironside, Stephen Grace will be making the call on KXIC AM 800. Out of Iowa City as well. So
I don't know for a fact.
Follow along.
I don't know for a fact, but I'm guessing Tim Johnson will be covering it. Our friend out of Morning Sun will be covering it for the Big Ten Network too, as well. So
Tim Johnson, I know Jim Gibbons, a lot of Iowa flavor there, right? And Tim Johnson's been doing this for so long, decades where Tim Johnson is been the voice of college wrestling, really, from IPTV days to BTN and everything else, ESPN as well. They don't come any better than TJ, do they?
no, they sure don't, man.
And that's not even the wrestling part. He's just such a good person. In addition to his wrestling knowledge and what he does there.
Right, and he brings the excitement, that's for sure. Gibby brings the knowledge, and TJ has that as well, of course. But TJ brings that excitement and that enthusiasm in his voice and his delivery. So
for sure. Well, let's head southwest, if you will, for the Big 12 championships down in Tulsa. this could be maybe the opposite of the team race in the Big Ten, where this could be really exciting and kind of go down to the wire before we realize who might come out on top.
The team race will be fun, as will a lot of the obviously it's the 10 battles, the 10 weight classes, the battles within those that make the team race fun. But for sure, I mean, I don't have a front runner. I mean, obviously, I guess the Cowboys and Cyclones are up there, but UNI is going to be in the hunt a little bit, and in South Dakota State, and gosh, I mean, it's going to be fun.
Well, looking at the seedings for the two Iowa schools, mentioned Iowa State first. They've got 7 seeded wrestlers, led by number 1 David Carr at 165. Of course, big win over Keegan O'Toole in the Missouri duel, kind of solidified that. And then you've got Marcus Coleman and Sam Schuyler as number 2 seeds at 84 and 285. Zach Redding, Pinero Johnson, the number 3 seeds at 33 and 49. And then Younger Bastida, the number 3 seed at 197, which is a really stacked weight class on the upper end there. And then Jason Kreiser, the number 7 seed at 157. Interestingly, Corey Kabamban listed at 125. He'll be going. He's unseeded as well. Surprisingly, Casey Swiderski unseeded as well for the Cyclones at 141, and then Julian Broderson unseeded at 174. For the Panthers, they had, I believe, 6 here that were seeded, led by Parker Keckheisen, a defending Big 12 champ, 2-time All-American for the Panthers. He's the number 1 seed at 184. Then Kyle Biscaglia and Colin Real Buto, the number 2 seeds at 33 and 49. And then Cale Happel, the number 3 seed at 141. Of course, a lot of people remember last year, Cale Happel just missing out on a berth to the NCAA tournament. Colbert wrote about him at the beginning of the season, coming back from that. You can find that at the Gazette.com. But he's poised to be able to kind of secure that spot, the NCAAs, back down in Tulsa. And then you have Lance Runyon and Tyrell Gordon, the 7 seeds at 174, 285.
Right. So the Panthers have the 7 that are qualified. The kicker is that Runyon, who's seeded 7th, is below the cut line, automatic cut line. So there's Gordon, who's seeded 7th. He's, if he places 7th, he qualifies. If Runyon places 7th, he doesn't. Now, you get on that backside, it's kind of rare to land on your seed, but it's because things fall kind of funny there. But so it's just I get that why they do it, but it just seems weird that here's one teammate that's seeded 7th that's in the cut line and one that's not. So if they actually land that way, that would be sad. But anyway, so yeah, then Goldhofer and Yant and Glazer are the other unseeded wrestlers for UNI. So yeah, it's you had 100. Let's see, you had basically 140, right? So you got 14 teams in the Big Ten and 10 wrestlers, so 140 wrestlers in the Big Ten. How many automatic qualifiers do they have?
For the Big Ten, they have 88.
88, and then
the Big 12 has 64.
64, and they also have 14 teams. Is that right? It's such a scrambled conference in wrestling. I forget how many there are.
Yeah, the way they have some different.
You got Air Force in there, and
some non-Big 12 teams that. Let me see if I can
Yeah, I think it's either 12 or 14. So anyway, and so it's the strength of the conference and the strength of what those individuals have done throughout the year that creates those automatic qualifiers. But and actually, the Big 12 has more this year than they had last year. So I'm not exactly sure how many, but I know it was bumped up due to their success both last year at the tournament and throughout the season this year. So anyway,
I believe. So I'm sitting here trying to count, and I'm sure it probably looks goofy because I'm trying to keep this straight in my head. But I believe the Big 12 has 13 teams here.
okay.
We've got Air Force, Cal Baptist, Iowa State, Minnesota, Missouri, North Dakota State, Northern Colorado, Northern Iowa, Oklahoma State, South Dakota State, Utah Valley, West Virginia, and then Wyoming.
That's 14. I think I just counted 14.
13.
Is it 13? Okay.
13.
I
Yep.
might have had too many fingers up.
So 13 teams in there, just one shy of the Big 12, but 24 less qualifiers. And then kind of interestingly, care to guess who the number 3, the conference with the third most allocated NCAA berths are?
Oh gosh. What's it? The Eastern EIA, whatever it's called.
Yep.
Is that
Eastern Intercollegiate Wrestling Association, EIWA.
There we go. Yeah. Okay.
That surprised me a little bit because of how good the ACC has been, with NC State, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina. I thought maybe the ACC would be third, but it's actually the EIWA with 45, and then ACC has 34.
So let me ask you this. That reminded me, was it last year that the Ivy League schools were not allowed to wrestle? Or was that 2 years ago?
I think that was 2 years ago. I think that was in 2021.
I was going to say, because that might have bumped up the qualifiers there if they were re-admitted or whatever.
Sure. Well, so with the Big 12, you wanted to do the same with the top 3. Did you top 3 wrestlers to wrestle above their seed? I did 3 for ISU and 3 for UNI. Did you do that or just 3 overall?
I did 3. 3 for both of them for each school.
Okay. Do you want me to go first this time or?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Well, the first one that I went with is Casey Swiderski, going from unseeded. I think we've seen what he can do. I don't know if this season was just a little bit of a grind, but having a couple weeks to kind of train and just kind of refocus and maybe get re-energized a little bit. I like his chances at 141 finishing, anywhere in the top 4, anywhere, in the top 6. There at 141. The other one, I'll say Derek Holschlag from UNI at 157. Mainly because I think 157 is wide open. We've seen Holschlag get some really quality wins this year, and I think 157 is wide open. I really think he's somebody that can finish higher than 5th. And then the other one was I'll go with Lance Runyon at 174. I think he's somebody that's dangerous if he's healthy. He certainly can catch some people and make a run. So I like those 3. And then Corey Kabamban at 125, if he's healthy. I think Tarakina would be a top 2 or 3 seed if he was healthy. And Kabamban's been right there with him, even though he hasn't been in the lineup. I've always kind of thought, based on some head-to-heads last year, that they were kind of 1A, 1B type of thing are pretty competitive. So he's somebody, if he's healthy, I think he could finish in the top 4 or 5 at that weight class. So I went 4. I went 4 overall. I cheated.
Okay, I did it a little differently. I did 3 from each school. So I got
Oh, okay. See, that's what I did too. Okay, so I misunderstood when you said you went just 3. So I'll just say I had Swiderski, Kabamban, and then Panero Johnson because I think Panero Johnson could be in the finals. And then you and I went Holschlag, Runyon, Tyrell Gordon, just because heavyweight, you stay in good position, get a takedown here or there, you can pull some upsets.
well, we weren't too far off at all because we're identical for ISU. I had Swiderski not seeded, Kabam not seeded. The big question mark there is injury. How bad is he injured? Obviously, he's been injured, and maybe they're just giving him a chance, thinking that geez, the kid that's been wrestling for him, as you know, Besley, thank you, geez, our CPU guy, isn't going to be able to do much better than Corey, an injured Corey. So anyway, then Johnson. I think Johnson at 49 is just that weight so loaded, but I think he can. I mean, I hope Real Vito is a finalist or whatever, but they're going to have to go through each other in the semifinals. So that would be Johnson and Real Vito from you and I. So anyway, then for you and I had Runyon and Hoschlag, and then I had Austin Yant because I don't know. He's been, Austin could be, if he's hurt, then he's been wrestling, with with an injury, then that could be a factor. But if he's healed, I think he might be able to. He's unseated. I think he might be able to finish up there. But I also had I went a 4th one with Gordon, so I think Gordon could be also one that could do it.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of I stayed away with at 165 is just because if you look at kind of where they're at, like what you have there, when you look at the Oklahoma wrestler being 5th, and then your number 6 seed is Wyatt Sheets, who is a real, has a huge upside. I mean, has the ability to wrestle with anybody and beat anybody. And then Tanner Cook from South Dakota State, and Fernandez from Northern Colorado. That's that 5 through 8 is that's pretty salty. And I don't know enough about Caliendo from North Dakota State. I don't know much about Hall from West Virginia, but that 5 through 8 group is so tough to that'd be tough to crack. But
and here's the deal: you get drawn in. I think if you're unseeded, you get drawn in. So you could land any of those 8, which now puts in. If you don't win that first round, now you're in the backside where that's a grind coming back through there.
Right.
So and if he's injured, that's not a good thing. So hopefully they're obviously any school that has an unseeded wrestler is hoping they get a great draw that gives them a little bit easier route forward anyway.
For sure.
And
just as long as you avoid those top 2, right? Carr and O'Toole.
Yeah.
Exactly. You gotta like your chances. Just as long as you stay away from those 2 at 65.
Right. Now I'll go first on this one because I don't know how you did it, but on those that potentially to wrestle below their seed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with Iowa State. I did my 3 there. So I had Skyler. He's seated 2nd, and I just thought that was an opportunity to maybe not finish quite that high. So he was my first there, and then Zach Redding is 3rd, and then you're not going to believe this or not. This is one of my potentials, David Carr.
Really?
Well,
just because of the finals match being
right,
the toss up with O'Toole.
Right. Okay. And do I think it'll happen? No, but I think it's a potential that he could wrestle below his seed and be 2nd. So I thought that was worthy of, since it's a 1 in the nation versus 2 in the nation matchup, that potential's there. Even though David handled him pretty good in that duel not too long ago. 7-2 or 3, I think it was. And then for you and I had Real Budo at 49. He's second seed. Like I said, he could wrestle Johnson in that semifinals. So that one could go, this way or that way. And then Biscaglia is second seed. And as much as I hate to say it, I think Happel has a potential to not be a third seed. Hopefully he is. Hopefully he's a qualifier. And all of these guys, hopefully. But that was one that I thought there. So, what'd you have?
I'd have to agree with you on those. The one thing with heavyweight is those matches can go. They usually are so close that they can go either way, and the margin of error is so short or so small, and just if you're not on, somebody like Gordon can finish third,
Right.
He also could not place. AJ Neville's is somebody that could, well, I wouldn't say Neville's just because Hendrickson is, I think Hendrickson from Air Force is head and shoulders above the rest, and probably the best heavyweight outside of anybody in the top 4 of the Big Ten, right?
Right.
But somebody like Zach Elam, I'll say somebody like Zach Elam from Missouri could be in the finals, could finish 6th, 7th, or 8th, just because I think the margin of error, a ride out here or there, takedown,
right.
Those can be the difference. I mean, in heavyweight matches. So, Skyler could be in the finals. He also could finish 6th,
right.
In that group. When you look at, he had a close match with Gordon, right? Wasn't that a close match at the end of the? Maybe not.
No, it was actually with Elam, wasn't it? That he won.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking just with Gordon and Skyler, they're a 2 and a 7 seed, and I don't think the differential was that
3-1 maybe.
that big. Maybe.
Yeah,
so that just tells you, those matches can go either way. So it's hard to really get good predictions on heavyweight, but
Henderson is fun to watch wrestle. He's a throwing heavyweight. He's fun. The few matches that I've seen him wrestle,
he likes to mix it up.
Yeah, he's big tall kid. That's wonder how he fits into one of those planes.
That's a good, might be something to ask.
Yeah.
But yeah. So for those, I see that, especially Real Budo as well, being the number 2 seed. He's missed some time as well, so you don't know kind of how he's going to be. So I definitely see those two being kind of question marks. I just kind of mentioned the top seeds overall. At 125, you've got Killian Cardinal of West Virginia, Dayton Fix at 133 from Oklahoma State, Andrew Alvarez of Northern Colorado at 141, Brock Mahler of Missouri at 149, Jared Franick of North Dakota State at 157. 165, we mentioned it was David Carr. 174, Peyton Mako of Missouri. Parker Keckeisen of UNI, we said, at 184. And then a familiar name to Iowans as well at South Dakota State. Tanner Sloan is the number 1 seed at 197, which extremely tough weight class, especially those top 4 wrestlers with Sloan, Rocky Elam, Younger Bastida, and Luke Serber of Oklahoma State. And then we mentioned Hendrickson of Air Force. They're least likely number 1 seed not to win.
Okay, first of all, on those number 1 seeds, 2 of them are ranked number 1 in the nation. 2 of them are ranked number 2 in the nation, and one of them was ranked number 3 in the nation. So Alvarez from UNC, which is a surprise number 1 ranked in the nation at 41. So and then of course David Carr, and actually 3 number 2 seeds or number 2 ranked kids. I forgot about O'Toole, but you got O'Toole and Dayton Fix is number 2, and then Kakaisen is number 2. So some pretty lofty rankings as well as there's those seeds there.
Sure.
Actually 2 other mentions before we just answer the question. Kate DeVos is wrestling at 174 for South Dakota State. And then here's one I bet you didn't know. And it's a 6 seed, right? And here's one I bet you didn't know. He's the 7th seed at 197. KJ. His name,
Midkiff McGuire Midkiff.
No, at
from North Dakota State out of Council Bluffs, right?
No, at 197.
Oh, 197.
And anyway, 197 from the Air Force Academy. His name is Kelvin Sun. And here's a connection to Jefferson High School.
Okay.
Mom and dad graduated from Jefferson, and his dad, Troy, wrestled for me. And so I think he's a junior out there, Air Force Academy. So that's my connection there. So I'm going to keep an eye on Cal, see how he does.
Okay. Anyway. Wow. Cool. I did not know. I thought you were going to mention McGuire Midkiff. Who is he? Is he not from Council Bluffs?
Oh, he is. I did miss him. You're right. He's at North Dakota State, 7th seed at 33. I missed him. You're right. Yep. Good call. There's the other connection.
Yeah, from Council Bluffs, TJ, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, yeah, that was one I overlooked too when you mentioned DeVos. It kind of rang a bell as well. So I have to keep an eye on him as well. But that's a cool note about Calvin Sun at the Air Force. We've had some wrestlers from Iowa, like I believe Bart Horton went out to Air Force or was associated with Air Force a while ago. I think MFL had a wrestler from I think Crozier from MFL years ago went out to the Air Force and stuff. So that's another Iowa connection out there at Air Force. It's pretty cool. Connected to Thomas Jefferson, Cedar Rapids, Jefferson.
Right, and the coach is from Iowa, isn't it?
Is it still?
I forget what the coach is now.
Let me double check. I know there were some changes, and stuff. I know Joel Sherrod at one time was their coach. And then was Sam Barber maybe their
Sam Barber. Yeah, Sam Barber.
Time.
Wartburg grad, I believe. If I remember right. Yep.
Yeah, Sam Barber is out there, and I just kind of noticed the name that popped up as well that I think a lot of people will recognize. Actually, they've got a lot of Iowa connections there. The associate head coach is Joe Johnston, former Hawkeye that was an assistant at Missouri for quite a while. And then their recruiting coordinator and assistant coach is Chris Heilman, who Chris Heilman was, I believe, a national runner-up for Cornell College.
Oh, yeah.
At one time. So, yeah, I had to stop off at Wisconsin Whitewater, where he was an assistant coach of the year in the Midwest Regional. Actually went to school at Davenport West. And then he was a 3-time All-American. I think maybe he was the top seed and got upset, but he was a 3-time All-American for Cornell and is from Davenport West. So, yeah, a lot of connection there with the coaching staff, and just want to double check and see where Barber. I want to say he he coached at Augsburg for a little bit. He was a 95 graduate of Upper Iowa.
Upper Iowa, that's it, Upper Iowa.
So, and spent some time coaching at like Minnesota State Mankato. And just has a long resume of coaching. So, yeah, good catch on the connections with Air Force there.
Okay, so I'll let you answer this one. Who do you think of all the 10 number one seeds, who's the least likely to win or the best chance for an upset?
Boy, one, I'm going to say at 157, Brainick from North Dakota State. And then I'm going to give my kind of 1B, I guess. And this is just because of kind of how the top half of the weight class is, or the top quarter or third of the weight class is. I'm going to go with Sloan at 197 as a number 2 on the list. So first is Fraenick at 157, and then just because of Rocky Elam, Younger Bastida, who is as good as anybody when he's on. Of course, he's kind of had a little bit of a up and down stretch, especially the second half of the season. And then Luke Serber, is a quality guy. He's dropped down from heavyweight a year ago, I believe. And he's done pretty well. So I'll go 197 as a backup to 157 on that.
Okay, so as I was going through it, sadly I wrote down 197, but then I got to thinking and looking and I crossed it out, maybe out of more of my heart.
Yeah.
It's so deep, like you said, and anything can happen there. But I want Tanner to win that one. So anyway, then so I got to looking, and you heard it here first. All right, you heard it here first. At 174, Romero from is going to get, or let's say Peyton Mako, is going to get defeated by Demetrius Romero from Utah Valley in the semifinals. All right,
I like that
right here. So I just remember watching Romero last year. He's a long, tall, lengthy, tough wrestler. I don't, if he's healthy, I have no idea. I haven't followed him at all this year, but I think he's going to be he's my upset call right there. So I think he's going to beat Mako, and Mako's not going to make the finals. So
okay, I can see that. I think that's a good one. I know Romero, I believe, talking to him last year, he's somebody that works with Ethan Lofthouse quite a bit. And I know that's somebody he's a dangerous competitor. He really is. So I think you're onto something there.
We'll see. It'll be fun to watch. So
so with how things kind of balance out, or kind of shake out as far as allotments go or allocations go, how many wrestlers do you think first off, do you think Iowa State comes away with a team title?
Oh boy.
And if they don't, can you and I pull it off, or is this something Oklahoma State?
There's so much that can happen throughout this tournament. When we were kind of making our choices, it was tough for different reasons. It was hard to find in the Big Ten. It was hard to find someone that was going to get upset. In the Big 12, it was hard to pick a weight because there were so many good finals matches. There was like too many choices. decide. So because of that, because of all of the things that could happen, I'm having a hard time deciding on a team. So no, I'm not even going to speculate. Yeah,
I'm gonna say Iowa State comes away with the team title. I'll stand on that perch and say they do. And I'm also going to say, let's see, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I say they come away with 9 automatic qualifiers. I think the only spot where they might fall short is 174. Of course, that hedges on how healthy is Kabam Bam.
Exactly.
You know, so I think if he's healthy and can get into the top 6, which I think he's capable, I say they qualify 9 or 9 automatically. If he doesn't, they'll have 8.
I think you and I and Iowa State each capture one more than they're showing on the seeds, and so I think Iowa State gets 8 and you and I get 7. And I don't think Kabam Bam is going to do it because of his injury. So I'm going Pogursky as being that guy that I'm even telling you which one.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. And I agree with you and I. I don't see them getting anybody at 25. 97. Then there's, obviously I like their chances at 33, 41, 49, 57. Runyon are on that cusp, right? So I think they get 1 out of 2 there. I like Runyon's chances a little bit better than Yant's. Keckheisen, of course, and then I think Gordon finishes in the top 8, at least holds his seed.
Right. And, obviously we want to see you and I with as many as possible in 8s.
Both of them. It'd be nice to have all 3 teams with 10 loaded going down to Tulsa, right?
Right. And I think you're right. I think Runyon slaps a cradle on someone and is able to wrestle above his seat. So
yep, for sure.
He might have been hurt a little bit too. I'm not sure. Did he wrestle in the last one? I don't remember now, but hopefully not.
So, any last comments from those 2 D1 conference tournaments?
Nope.
Kind of interesting to see some of the other Iowans for other schools, like at South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Cedar Rapids connection, the Air Force. We mentioned Boone McDermott as well, and I know there's some other Iowans out there in some other conference tournaments as well. So it'll be fun to keep tabs on them and see how many do punch their ticket down to back to Tulsa for these Big 12 schools, right? They're gonna know the way there by heart.
Maybe they'll just camp out after the tournament's over. No, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe. Fun place to do.
Is there a way to watch it online, or is that?
I think all that's through Flow Wrestling. Let me see if I can find the information there from the Big 12.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll touch on the Lower Midwest Regional in Division III, which is
that was last weekend.
19 schools, and 10 of those schools walked away with at least 1 qualifier. So locally, Co had 4. Richardson at 174. Westfall was a runner-up. Tristan Westfall was at 184 was 3rd, and Jared Voss, our West Delaware connection, and one of our young referees, good guy, was 3rd at 197, and then Caleb Reeves was a champion at 285. So the top 4 weights are going for Co. Cornell, I'm proud to say this. Cornell's first qualifier since 2018 was Jacob Scherzer. That's my last coached Russell out there. So I'm really proud of Jacob at 174. He was third. University of Dubuque kind of wrestled, had a great tournament. That brothers Kuntz that evidently have transferred from Ohio State wrestled 25 and 33 and both qualified. 25 pounder third and the 33 pounder was second, and then their heavyweight Yellow was second, and in a short match against Reeves. I don't know if you were watching, but that was I think about a minute. Reeves, he's a throwing machine. So anyway, and then Luther qualified 2 at 149. McDonough was third, and at 184, Donovan Corn, who I've kind of questioned a little bit as to whether he should have cut from 97 down to 84, but he proved it. He was a runner-up there, and to Shane Legal, and they also have a pretty decent match there. And so, he now I'm going to rescind everything I said. It seems like it's been a good move for Donovan Corn here. Loris had 4 qualifiers. They had 2 champs and Pfizer at 165 and Legal at 184. And then Smith at 157 was second, and Kincaid at 141 was third. I think the Loris has to be a little disappointed, and maybe Co as well with just 4. I'm guessing they probably wanted more. Wartburg had 7 qualifiers. Pins at 133 was third. Tarakina did a medical forfeit, and it was probably a smart move. And sure, he would have won the match if it needed to be for their team title. He could have wrestled, I think, but so they're just kind of protecting that. I think it was a knee, if I remember right. And then they had 4 champs. Chris Rump at 49, David Hollingsworth at 157, Mulder at 74, and ending at 197 were all champs, and then Fuller at 165 was third for Wartburg, who won the team title pretty handily.
So just to backtrack with the Big 12, they have a streaming via the Big 12 Now, which is on ESPN Plus, and the finals will be televised on ESPNU on Sunday. So you'll be able to check that out there. Of course, track wrestling. We'll have matches, and of course, UNI actually has a meet hub that you can go and check out everything that's going on at unipanthers.com. So
cool.
So a lot of coverage there for the Big 10, Big 12 championship. So a lot of different ways to be able to catch that action.
Right, and we kind of breeze through Division 3 because we can talk about that next week when it's their national. But just wanted to mention the qualifiers, and the same with Division 2. Upper Iowa, which is our only Division 2 school, had 4 qualifiers. At 184, Colton By was second, and then they had 3 thirds in Tate Murdy, Eric Fott, and Chase Loonsman at 141, 57, and 65. So good luck to those guys in there. Be wrestling in Cedar Rapids, so we can jump right into the powerhouse and watch those guys compete. That's on March 10th and 11th.
Yep, the D2 championships for Lensman, the former Monticello prep. It's his 3rd NCAA berth there, and like you mentioned, on March 10th and 11th at the powerhouse in Cedar Rapids for that championship, and it'll be the second national championship tournament or national championship event in 2 weeks here at the Alliant Energy Powerhouse. It's going to host the National Collegiate Women's Wrestling Championships this Friday and Saturday. Of course, for people that don't know, without the NCAA actual championships for women, this kind of takes that place. This has schools from uh, all over the country in different divisions as well, where you have a D1 program like Lock Haven, and a D3 program like Augsburg, and Simpson College has one qualifier that that will be there. You've got D2 schools in the mix as well, and powerhouse McKendree University, part of that field. Um, so a lot of great women's wrestling action down there. And we were talking about this beforehand, kind of the precursor, because this is where the University of Iowa women will compete until things kind of further with the emerging sports status at the NCAA level. But this will be something that the University of Iowa and Clarissa Chun will be a part of in the future as well. So some really good action down there.
Right, and I'm really glad to see that this tournament is being held in Iowa this year with the first year
Very timely.
Sanctioned in the state of Iowa. I mean, just timely, and we've more than doubled our participation in the girls. So hopefully that there'll be some families that want to take their daughters down there to watch this level of wrestling, to see if they want to aspire to wrestle at the collegiate level, and so I think hopefully it'll bring a nice crowd down there.
Yeah, and really just want to talk a little, so this event is only like 4 years old, and I'm going to reference um Kyle Klingman posted something at flowwrestling.com. And of course, Kyle Klingman, a great historian of the sport that works a lot with the Dan Gable Museum up in Waterloo, National Wrestling Hall of Fame there. But he did a lot of research on kind of the teams and how this tournament has advanced. One thing that we should know, I think a lot of people that are watching this know this fact, but in case they don't, the women wrestle freestyle, not folk style. So, that's something to kind of keep in mind with um, the event. But the way things have grown over the years, where in 2020, the first year, there were 19 programs or teams that were represented in this championship event. That modest little jump the next 2 years from 19 to 21, a little bit bigger from year 2 to 3 with 21 to 30. And then now this year, there are 37 programs that will be represented at the national by at least one wrestler. So you're looking almost doubling, just about doubling over the 4 years. So that's a good sign as well, as far as those programs. And we know that there are a lot more kind of on the verge of taking that step from it being announced that they're starting a program to where they'll be competing too. So I expect that number to jump again between 2023 and 2024.
Right. And it's interesting to me that there's some folks out there that are going, within our state, and I guess it's deservedly so, because it's the first year that's been sanctioned, but it's not like it's the first year of girls wrestling. Girls wrestling's been around for decades. It's been an Olympic sport since the 80s. Is that right? The 80s or whenever it was started, but for decades. Come on, people, wake up. There's some great wrestling. I've said it publicly on this forum that I love watching the girls Olympics more than I like watching the boys. And I, of course, love the guys, but just competitive and out trying things, and it's just that's fun. So come on down and watch it. You're going to see some great wrestling.
And it's kind of interesting too. This is just a little bit of a just kind of a, I don't know. maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing, but you know, it's not as, even though there's a strong centralized, Midwestern feel to it, right? Where you've got a lot of programs that are in the Midwest, but you know, you've got schools from Texas that are involved. You've got teams from out east like a Lock Haven. You've got Colorado Mesa from out west. Um, you've got teams from all over pretty much, even though it's not just the Midwest feel, even though a lot of them are from the area. But you've got Sacred Heart, you got Presbyterian, which I think is in the Carolinas. That just started they're actually a D1 program, I think. With Sacred Heart and Lock Haven. Um, so you've got that level, and then you've got Simpson and North Central. Augsburg, we mentioned, Aurora, Illinois, Delaware Valley. Those are D3 schools. And then you've got Gannon and King and Lindenwood, McKendree, schools like that are D2 schools. So you've got this representation from all over and at different levels too. So I think that has the makings of something that really entertain people. And it, if you have somebody, it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl, go watch, because I guarantee you it's going to be something that uh, they enjoy.
Right. For sure. I mean, great quality. How about
And
NAIA? Did you?
one quick thing that I kind of want to mention too, or two things really quick. Some of the favorites kind of coming in. Teams can qualify up to 15 wrestlers, right? North Central and King out of Tennessee, King University out of Tennessee, they've each qualified 15 wrestlers. There's some of the favorites coming in. McKendree, who's won the team title the last 3 years, they have 10 qualifiers, including 4 returning national champions. So should be a fun team race as well. And there are some local connections with some of the programs. If you remember, Simpson's program is coached by Jeff McGinnis, the former 4-timer from Iowa City High, 2-time national champ at Iowa. Lindenwood is coached by Mike Mena, who is from the University of Iowa, helped Coach McGivern at the University of Dubuque in the past. So he leads the Lindenwood program out of Missouri. And then another name that caught me by surprise, Elijah Jeffrey, the former state champ at Linn-Mar, who wrestled at Northern Illinois. He is the head coach at Chadron State, and he's got 4 qualifiers in the field. So kind of interesting connections there with some of the coaches bringing wrestlers in.
Right. Elijah was in our bad boy program for a little while, I believe. And his mom was the what do they call them?
The resource officers. Yep. Yeah, Washington, I believe.
He was at Jefferson, and then at Prairie, I think.
Oh, okay.
So very nice, very nice. So yeah, so good luck to those connections. That's neat.
So they'll start here Friday morning, I believe, at 9 o'clock for that first session. Friday morning. It'll be Friday, Saturday, and then you mentioned the NAIA national tournament. Grandview qualified 12 wrestlers to the tournament. This is 65th NAIA national tournament. Will be held the 3rd and 4th down at Hartman Arena in Park City, Kansas, which I think is in the Wichita area there. So The Vikings are loaded. I kind of expect uh, you know, them to come away with another title, going ranked number one. Um, they're led by returning national champs Esco Walker at 125 and Israel Caceres at 157. They also have returning finalists in Marty Magolis, Ben Lee, and Greg Hagan, who I believe is a former West Des Moines Dowling prep. And then Carson Taylor, who's from Fort Dodge, Shea Ruffridge from Pocahontas, Isaiah Llewellyn, and they got third last year, but then Owen Braungart is back, who finished fifth. So the Vikings loaded for another run.
Right, and the way I look at it, it's theirs to lose. I mean, they were ranked number one and should be, but we saw that, was it 2 years ago that they got upset by Life, and
Yeah.
So we thought 2 years ago they were going to walk away with it and did not. So who knows? Grandview does have 5 number 1 seeds, 4 number 2 seeds, and a number 3 seed. So 10 of their wrestlers are in the top 3 seeds, and 9 of them in the top 2. And just for reference, Life has 2 number 1 seeds, 4 number 2 seeds, and 2 number 3 seeds. So there's only 8 in the top 3. The interesting thing is, for me, was, you can bring 2 wrestlers at 2 different weights, or you can bring 12 wrestlers, and I guess maybe you can even go 3 in 9 weights or whatever. But anyway, they have 2 at 157 and 2 at 197. The 57 pounders are ranked 1 and 2, so are seeded 1 and 2. Sorry, not ranked, but seeded 1 and 2. And we've seen that before where they've wrestled each other in the national finals.
Just kind of looking at some of the other qualifiers, Morningside, they actually are taking a huge contingent down. They have 11 qualifiers. Heading down there, of course, one of the names you might recognize, Hunter DeYoung, up from Northwest Iowa, a qualifier at heavyweight for Morningside, one of their 2 qualifiers at 285. Briarcliff, who actually is in the Sioux City area as well, they have 3 qualifiers. Graceland has 4 in the field as well. Iowa Wesleyan, coached by Jake Cadle, former Iowa wrestler, and of course you'll recognize Lane Scorpel, qualified at 125 for the Tigers, and then William Penn also has 4 qualifiers as well. So some good representation from the state of Iowa and the NAIA programs heading down there. One of the things that isn't really locally connected, but something I just kind of want to make reference of, thanks to the research by Jason Bryant, who you'd recognize Jason's voice. He's the announcer at a lot of the national tournaments and various tournaments across the country. He also has his Matt Talk podcast as well. But he did some research on the longest winning streaks in college wrestling history, which expands the entire all levels of college in men and women here. And the reason why we mention it is Doane College, who happens to be coached by, I think, a former Iowa State wrestler and coach, Dana Vogt, who actually was an assistant at Buena Vista for a long time. He has a wrestler named Badruddin Boldma goes kind of by Boggy. He has won 97 straight matches for Doan. So he enters in with a chance to reach just to become the 6th wrestler all time to win 100 straight matches at the collegiate level. Obviously, we were talking about the names on the list beforehand. Cale Sanderson, number 1 at 159 in a row. A 4-timer for Augsburg at the D3 level, Marcus Levesser. He won 155 in a row. Joey Davis, who wrestled for Notre Dame College, D2 school. I'm pretty sure he wrestled in Cedar Rapids during the D2 national championships here one year. He won 133 in a row. Then you had Emily Webster of Oklahoma City University on the Women's Coaches Wrestling Association. She won 118 in a row. Daniel Igali of Simon Fraser, the NAIA level, won 116 in a row. So Boldmark could reach that century mark this weekend. Some other names on the list that he's actually passed. Stephen Abbas from Fresno State, Zane Rutherford from Penn State, who had won 95 in a row at the D1 level, and then Dan Gable won 94 in a row for Iowa State back at the university, NCAA University Division, back in the day. So looking to enjoy for him to join some pretty elite company in college wrestling.
I've heard of a couple of those names on your list.
A few of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something to kind of keep an eye on, and an interesting note for this weekend at the NAIA, as well as, Grandview looking to extend its dominance. Yeah, that's really the only word you can really say about it. Dominance on the NAIA level. And speaking of Grandview Wrestling, one other thing to note too, that the women, the Viking women's team, they had their conference championship, the Heart of America Conference Championship last weekend. They won. They beat Iowa Wesleyan 191.5 to 148.5. Of course, Jake Cadle also coaching on the women's side of things as well. But Grandview is sending 12 wrestlers to the women's championships. Now, the NAIA is separate from the NCWWC. The NAIA has their own national championship as well. So that is actually next week in Fargo, North Dakota. So Grandview sending 12 to that national championship on the women's side, as well, after winning their conference tournament. So that's something to look forward to. And it's actually their 3rd conference title in a row, as well. So they're pretty dominant as well.
So I don't know if you can see it or not, but what we see is your screen behind you. And I have to tell you, I just recently did indoor golf for the first time, and I just want to get my club out and hit and see if
Do you? Land.
So there you go.
We're getting closer and closer to golfing weather for sure. So, yep. One thing just to add about the women's the Heart of America women's tournament. wrestling coach. The assistant coach of the year was from Grandview, Arlis Valles. And then co-freshman of the year was Katie Campbell, who's from Crawfordsville, Illinois. So she was a first teamer, as well as Jazz Alexander, Alexis Gomez, and Abby McIntyre. Abby McIntyre from Glenwood, Iowa. Awesome. So I think that that gets us ready for this weekend and the qualifiers and the national championships that are here, postseason, getting underway.
Yeah, like we started with, it's exciting. Here we go. We're in the middle of this kind of wave of national tournaments and qualifiers.
Yep. So you can get to Ann Arbor or Tulsa, enjoy the wrestling there. If you're hitting the road, if you're staying locally, come down to the Alliant Energy Powerhouse for some great women's wrestling that'll be held down there Friday and Saturday, and of course you can stream a lot of things online and everything. So thanks for joining us again this week. We'll be back next week to kind of look over the happenings from this weekend and another round of postseason action. So as always, thanks for watching and following along with us. Coach Briggs, why don't you take us out?
Let's keep wrestling on the move.